Shocking truth. The prostitute who became Jesus' ancestry discover Rahab's dark legacy. In the arid dust of Jericho, a city wrapped in whispers and shadows, an unbelievable story dances in the flickering candlelight. They called her Rahab, a woman defined by the haunting choices of her life. She sold her body, yet her bloodlines would eventually intertwine with the divine. The chilling truth? This woman, once cast aside, would become a crucial thread in the lineage of Jesus Christ. Can you feel the weight of that? It's a revelation that sends shudders down the spine, sparking curiosity about how a life steeped in shame could bear such glory. But that's not where the tale ends. Picture this: walls so thick they seem to touch the heavens, trembling under the weight of ancient prophecies. Rumor among the townsfolk told of a scarlet cord that dangled from her window, a lifeline between life and death during the impending destruction of Jericho. It shimmered like a beacon in the dark, a symbol of hope against the relentless tide of fate. Could something so simple hold such power? And what did it mean for those who dared to consider her redemption? As Rahab navigated her treacherous world, every choice echoed like a heartbeat in the silence of night. Within those shaded alleys, fear lurked behind every door, and the air was thick with secrets. Shadows passed by, but none would venture near her, the once feared and now revered. She was a survivor, plain and simple. Yet, as she lay awake at night, did she ponder her role in this grand narrative? Did visions of salvation haunt her thoughts, intertwining with memories of the life she left behind? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the night deepened, a low murmur rippled through the marketplace. Something sinister on the horizon. The townspeople whispered of strange occurrences. A rumor of an army marching towards Jericho, an army unlike any other. Fear gnawed at their resolve. Would Rahab's last chance for salvation slip through her fingers like sand? What awaited her in the chaos? The walls of Jericho stood tall, but would they protect her? Or would they crumble under the weight of her life's choices? A shudder ran through her, but deep down, a flicker of resilience burned bright. She stood at the precipice of destiny, and the question remained. Would she grab it, or let it slip away forever? The dawn crept in, smeared with streaks of crimson and gold, casting a surreal glow over Jericho. It felt like the calm before a storm, the kind of stillness that thrummed with tension. Rahab could feel it in her bones. The city felt alive, trembling at the edges as if anticipating disaster. Her heart raced, pressing against her ribs as the whispers of the townsfolk echoed in her mind. The army from the east, the one they all spoke of, was no ordinary force. Legends surrounded them, phantoms that swept through lands, leaving only silence behind. And while Jericho's stone walls loomed, sturdy and resolute, an unshakable fear gripped Rahab. What if the walls fell? What if the choices of her past condemned her to be lost in the chaos? A bead of sweat trickled down her back as she tied the scarlet cord securely and let it flutter in the wind from her window. It felt like a fragile talisman, a flicker of hope against the might of destruction. She couldn't help but wonder, would anyone see it? Would her actions be enough to save not only herself but the very life she fought to build? As she walked through the narrow alleyways of Jericho, the biting wind whispered secrets she wasn't yet ready to face. Shadows flitted, revealing glimpses of fearful faces. The marketplace buzzed with anxious energy, and each corner she turned felt steeped in despair. A merchant cursed under his breath, while a mother clutched her child, eyes wide with terror. "Did you hear?" A boy's voice piped up, cutting through the dense air. "They say the army can make the very earth tremble beneath their feet." Rahab's heart pounded as she quickened her pace. She needed to find the two spies she had hidden. the ones who had promised her safety in exchange for her help. Would they keep their word, or were they merely phantoms in her longing for redemption? Rahab, a familiar voice called out from the shadows. It was the younger spy, his face dirty, yet determined. We're ready to leave, but we must hurry. There's no time to waste. Leave? She echoed incredulously, her heart sinking. What about Jericho? What about the people? The city is doomed, he hissed, urgency drowning his words. We have no choice. The weight of his reality settled like stone in her chest. In that moment, Rahab faced a haunting choice, a choice that would echo through generations. Should she flee with the strangers who could give her a new life, leaving behind everything she knew, or stay and risk it all, to protect a city that shunned her? A scream pierced the air, snapping Rahab back to the heart of chaos unfolding around her. She looked into his eyes, searching for solace but finding only desperation. Was it too late to save anyone? Could she be the protector she desperately wanted to become? The sound of marching feet grew louder, shaking the very ground beneath her. The tension thickened, and the walls of Jericho seemed to tremble in disbelief, preparing to face a fate sealed by her choices. Would her sacrifice change their destiny? As the first rays of sunlight broke through the relentless sky, illuminating the path of anguish ahead, Rahab knew what she had to decide. In the depths of her soul, a fierce resolve ignited, but hovering in the air was the question. Was her courage enough to alter fate? Or would the dawn reveal a darkness that even she could not overcome? The ground trembled beneath her, but it wasn't the looming army that pressed down on Rahab's spirit. It was the weight of the choices she faced, tearing her apart like a fraying rope. She could be free, she could escape, yet the echo of the cries from the streets urged her to stay. Tears pooled in her eyes, blurring the chaos around her. Rahab, the spy's voice cut through her turmoil, sharper than the cries of a wounded animal. You can't save them all. You only have a moment. His words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Could she truly save anyone? Would her sacrifice matter in the grand reckoning of history? The air grew thick with smoke as the first flames flickered in the distance, curling and twisting like monstrous fingers reaching for the sky. The army, she whispered, panic creeping up her throat. They're coming. You can't expect me to just leave. Every fiber of her being screamed to act, to fight for what little humanity remained in Jericho. But the urgency in the boy's eyes mirrored the chaos brewing within her. There was no time for indecision. Outside, the landscape shifted, the sound of splintering wood filled the air, and for a moment, the world fell silent, as if holding its breath. Please, he pleaded, desperation twisting his voice. They'll kill us all. We'll die for a city that never saw our worth. The truth of his words struck like lightning. Jericho, with its high walls and prideful facade, had never welcomed her. Where was her loyalty? Was it truly to the people who cast her aside? Stay, the other spy whispered, stepping closer, his voice a stark contrast to the panic outside. If you stay, you will perish. You'll be just another name lost in the ashes. A fresh wave of panic rushed over Rahab as she glanced toward the window. The marketplace was alive and not in the way of a bustling morning. Fire licked at the sky, and people rushed, their hearts pounding like the drums of war. Mothers called for their children while fathers bravely pushed their families toward safety. It was carnage unfolding before her eyes, chaos surrounded by fear. Rahab, look. For the first time, the younger spy's voice carried a warning through the noise. They're here. The army from the east stood outside the gates, cloaked in shadows cast by the dimming sun. Their presence felt like a tidal wave ready to crash, and she could feel the vibrations of despair ripple beneath her skin. Suddenly, the world turned upside down. The spy grabbed her arm, pulling her back as dust and debris exploded from the ground. An arrow whizzed past, sinking into the wall beside her with a deadly thud. She flinched, disbelief pulsing through her veins. This wasn't how it was meant to end. The jagged fear stirred a new resolve deep within her. She could not flee. Then help me organize a defense. She stood taller, her heart igniting with renewed purpose. They deserve a chance to fight for their lives. The other spy shook his head, panic flooding his features. This isn't your fight. It's madness. Madness? Or a chance to reclaim her own worth. With a fierce will, Rahab felt the pulse of the city resonate in her blood. They might not have believed in her, but that didn't mean she wouldn't believe in them. Gather whoever you can. She snapped, determination carving lines into her face. I want to stand by while they destroy everything I know. A lurch of sympathy crossed the younger spy's face, but all he could do was nod. He sprinted out into the chaos, ready to rouse others with the alarm. The flames danced outside, taunting her with the frailty of life. Rahab stood at the window, breathless, caught in the reality of her decision. She knew there would be consequences. Facing the enemy could shatter her chance at freedom, yet it solidified her spirit. Suddenly, the chilling sound of a horn echoed through the air, a signal of war. The army advanced, and every heartbeat felt like a countdown to destruction. As fears blended into determination, Rahab asked herself again, could she truly change their fate, or would she fall victim to the same darkness that claimed the city? And as the first arrow rained down like a storm, she screamed into the chaos, letting her voice shatter the silence left in its wake, challenging fate itself. The air crackled with tension as Rahab's voice echoed through the smoke-filled streets. She felt the weight of every heartbeat around her, every breath drawing her deeper into the maelstrom of panic and uncertainty. In the distance, the rumble of army boots grew louder, like a marching thundercloud poised to unleash its fury. Faster! We need to form a line. Her command cut through the chaos, reigniting the spark of hope in those who had begun to lose their way. A ragtag group of desperate souls assembled, their faces shadowed by fear but illuminated by a shared resolve. From the corner of her eye, she caught sight of the younger spy passing out makeshift weapons, a wooden club here, an old sword there. The odds were stacked against them, but as she faced the approaching darkness, she felt an odd sense of solidarity grow in her chest. Prepare yourselves, she shouted, her voice rising like the flames licking the buildings around them. The air was thick with smoke, and every breath stung her lungs. She watched, dread pooling in her stomach, as figures clad in armor emerged from the gloom, their faces hidden behind steel visors. They were coming for them, and there would be no mercy. Rahab, the spy called out, scrambling to her side, urgency lacing his tone. What are we waiting for? We can't hold them off for long. We have to give them a chance. Rahab countered, her fists clenched at her sides. If we fight back, we honor the lives lost, the lives still here. We want to go silently. The sound of splintering wood and a war cry pierced the chaos as the first wave of soldiers crashed against the hastily erected defenses. Rahab gritted her teeth as she pushed forward, every ounce of her strength channeled into the united front of defiance. Another soldier fell, this time from their own ranks, striking a blow that felt like a hammer to her gut. The reality of death transformed the air thick, murky, cold. She staggered back as men and women cried out, the sounds intertwining with her own horror. Keep fighting, she screamed, the words tearing at her throat. Push forward. Her heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her veins, blurring the line between fear and focus. A soldier breached the line, charging at her with a sword raised, and she grabbed a discarded spear, thrusting it forward just as a companion distracted him. The man stumbled, and in that breathless moment, Rahab felt a flicker of triumph. But it was snuffed out all too quickly. Others poured into the fray, the chaos thickening around her. She fought, thrusting, swiping, desperately holding onto her sliver of hope amid the madness. Rahab, we can't hold. The older spy's scream rose above the clamor, raw and piercing. We must retreat to the alleyways. No, she shouted back, refusing to yield. The shadows of her past whispered temptations of escape, but she shook her head, wrestling with the ghosts of her old life. If she turned away now, would she ever forgive herself? But the tide was shifting. The army surged forward, more soldiers joining the fray, and Rahab felt the ground beneath her crumble. The cries of her fellow defenders began to fade, Consumed by a sense of impending doom, with one final glance at her ragtag army, she felt the fire in her belly falter. "We can't give up," she yelled, but the words held less power now. Hope was spiraling into despair as the soldiers advanced relentlessly toward her, collecting the fallen as they went. Suddenly, a figure broke through the haze of chaos. A soldier, bloodied and weary, yet his eyes gleamed with something more. Was it hope? Or was it the final grimace of war? "Get back!" he shouted, but as he drew closer, Rahab recognized the insignia on his breastplate. It was a symbol that could change everything she thought she knew, and as the realization dawned on her, the air thickened with the weight of secrets gone undiscovered. She had to know, what did it mean for Jericho? What did it mean for her? As she braced for his words, the cry of war fell away, replaced with the dawning of a revelation. "Together we can end this," he yelled over the tumult, but she was already caught on the edge of something far more dangerous. A truth that could shake the foundations of everything. "What do you know?" Rahab demanded, desperate for answers, while behind her, the battle raged on. Would this knowledge save them, or condemn everything she had fought for? The silence that followed the soldier's declaration felt surreal, as if the world around them had paused for the briefest of moments. Rahab's heart hammered in her chest. What could he possibly know that would change the course of their fate? "Listen to me," he urged, lowering his voice as he scanned the chaos swirling around them. "They're not just soldiers. They're puppets pulling on strings tied to a darkness deeper than we can fathom." Confusion twisted in Rahab's gut. The sight of her comrades fighting tooth and nail blurred with the obscured motives of the soldiers before her. She felt a flutter of hope, a tantalizing whisper, but questions clawed at her. What madness lay behind his words? "What do you mean?" she pressed, desperation bleeding into her tone. "They're driving us to the ground not just to conquer, but for something much worse." His voice rose, barely cutting through the din. "They want to break our spirit, to erase who we are." The distant clash of steel against steel pierced the air again, snapping Rahab back to the present. She could see it now, soldiers advancing, relentless, each strike aimed to dismantle their resolve. The gravity of his statements weighed upon her like lead, but she could see her people suffering, wounded, and slipping away. "Then we hit them where it hurts," she shouted back, summoning her fierce defiance once more, rallying her ragtag defenders. "Fighting isn't just about our lives. It's about our legacy. We will not bend to tyranny." But as she pushed into the fray, the soldier's gaze caught hers. "What are you fighting for, Rahab?" he asked, his voice soft yet steely. "Is it merely survival, or is there something more? The truth lies in the stories we tell when this is all over." Those words resonated like an echo in her mind. Stories? A legacy? Perhaps he knew what she had once believed, that bloodlines mattered, that her existence was tethered to a purpose bigger than her. But had her own story been extinguished amid the chaos? Suddenly, the ground shook with the pounding of boots, the soldiers pressing their advantage. One soldier broke through her fragile defensive line, and Rahab narrowly dodged an aimed blow, the blade whistling past her ear. She spun, striking back, her heart racing anew, fueled by adrenaline and fear. "Together, we can uncover the truth," the soldier yelled as he joined her fight, his sword cutting through the chaos beside her. "Help me, and I'll reveal what they want from us." She fought her way back to his side, determination igniting within her. "Let us uncover their lies." "Then," she replied, no longer merely defending but now attacking, pushing back against their oppressors. But in that chaotic moments of battle, a piercing scream rang out. "Rahab!" It was the older spy again, face pallid, eyes wide with terror. "Fall back. They are coming through the east side," he cried, pointing frantically. "The barricades will not hold." Just then, a heavy steel gate clanked open from the shadows, revealing an unexpected ally, an enemy surrendering, but at a cost. The soldier's words churned in her mind like a tempest. What dangers lurked here that they could not see? "Stay close, stay alert," Rahab shouted to her supporters, but her thoughts raced. Where would they go if they retreated? What strategies could come from enemies suddenly seeking truce? With every pulse in her veins, the weight of choices pressed down. Lessons of the past clawed at her what it meant to understand those who wear the enemy's garb. As the gates threatened to overshadow them, her spirit flared. Remember, we fight not just for today, but for the legacy of our stories. Let us not disappear into the night, but shine like the dawn. But as she rallied them forward, the echo of the soldier's words rang ominously in her mind. A truth that can shake the foundations of everything, and as the shadows of the advancing army loomed, Rahab's heart raced with dread. Was the fight for their lives also a fight for their stories? Would facing this looming darkness illuminate the hidden truths of her own lineage? The gnawing uncertainty hummed louder than the clamoring swords ahead. What lay behind that gate? Could their fight reveal a truth, or would it summon a darker legacy than they could ever imagine? The moment the gates shuddered open, silence fell like a thunderclap. The clash of battle softened in Rahab's ears as she stood, poised between the chaos behind and the unknown beyond. A shiver danced up her spine. Her heart raced not from the fight, but from the unsettling tension crawling through her veins, begging her to flee or to confront the mysteries shrouded in darkness. "Fall back," shouted the older spy again, his voice tinged with a mixture of desperation and determination. "We can't trust them." Rahab's breath hitched, her instincts clashing with her desires. Allies or foes? Would they turn the tide in this relentless fight, or were they bait in a trap too well laid? With gritted teeth, she squinted into the gloom beyond the gates. Then, like a specter emerging from the depths, a figure stepped forward from the shadows. Covered in dirt, the face was bruised yet resolute, eyes gleaming with a mixture of fear and resolve. "We need your help," the figure rasped. "There's more at stake than we thought." The soldier by her side turned to Rahab, pleading, "We can't deny them now. What if they hold the key?" A flicker of hope ignited into a blazing flame within her, a reckless urge to grasp at possibilities that might save them all. But what if this was a ruse? Could she gamble their lives on mere whispers of potential? In that split second, Rahab felt the weight of her people's lives hanging on her choices. Each face, each story, they were all looking at her. "Who are you?" Rahab demanded, her voice steady, yet trembling beneath the surface. "And why should I trust you?" The figure gasped, thrusting out a hand stained with fresh blood. "We've experienced what they want from you, from all of us. The real enemy lies deeper in the shadows, no longer just fighting for survival." Rahab was tangled in a web of secrets, desires, and an unsettling truth. Stories twisted into lies, families wrenched apart by forces unseen. This was her moment to seek the truth or to invite ruin. "What do they want?" she pressed, stepping closer, urgency crackling between them. "They want control." Memories erased, hearts crushed. The figure let out a ragged breath, words spilling like broken glass. "Your legacy, Rahab, it is more than survival. You're part of their plan." Panic gnawed at Rahab's insides. What plan? Who was she that she fit into a puzzle larger than herself? Could her lineage spell doom? "I don't understand," she shouted, feeling the chaos seep into her bones. "Tell me." But before the figure could speak again, the distant battle surged back to life, louder and harsher, thrumming against her eardrums. An eruption of clanging swords and anguished cries filled the air, a relentless reminder of their impending doom. They needed decisions, action, every moment counted. "Back into the fight," Rahab declared, resolve fortifying her voice. "We'll face whatever truth you carry, but we need to stand together." As she turned to her soldiers, a sudden roar of fury erupted from the enemy outside. Like wolves unleashed, they poured through the gate, savage and relentless. Rahab's breath caught. This was their moment of reckoning. With swords drawn, she faced the encroaching tide. Shadows twisted around her, faces reflected in the metal glinting under the grim sky. Yet doubt clung tightly to her. What if they were not just fighting for survival, but for a destiny veiled in the blood of their ancestors? "Hold the line," she cried, heart pounding, rallying her forces against overwhelming odds. "Fight with all that you are." But in the midst of her rallying cry, confusion twisted in her gut. Would facing this enemy expose ancient truths or reveal something darker than her wildest fears? As she raised her sword, the encroaching darkness thickened. "Rahab!" yelled her ally, panic suffusing his voice. "Whatever we face, we cannot retreat into shadows again. Trust what you learn." With every breath, her choices blurred under the weight of legacy and fear. What if she was more than a fighter? What if she was crucial to the darkness approaching them? When she swung her sword, a thought pierced through the chaos. The truth could either shatter them or grant them a power they had yet to understand. What lay ahead in this battle would uncover secrets that might forever alter the very fabric of who they believed themselves to be. Was she ready for that revelation? And as the clash began anew, one undeniable question echoing louder than the clash of steel filled her mind. Could her fight lead to liberation, or would it chain her to a fate that the shadows had long since decided? Rahab's heart thundered in her chest, a cadence of fear and ferocity melding into a singular, unyielding purpose. She gripped her sword tight, the weight of it grounding her amidst the chaos swirling around her. The battle surged back to life, a wave of violence crashing against her determination. Bodies collided, cries of pain echoed, and the acrid scent of sweat and blood filled the air. She glanced over her shoulder, scanning her soldiers' faces etched with dread yet glowing with the steely resolve of those on the brink. Eyes that had witnessed too much stared back at her, each one carrying the burden of lost hope, extinguished dreams. "Stand firm," she shouted, her voice slicing through the cacophony. "Together we hold the line. Fight for those who can't." But beneath her bravado, dread curdled in her gut, twisting relentlessly. The figure from the shadows lingered in her thoughts, the knowledge of her significance there, teetering on the brink of revelation. What did this mean? Could her legacy unravel everything they fought for? She couldn't allow her mind to wander. The enemies were closing in. She recalled the words of the shadow figure, "You're part of their plan." Then she spotted the enemy's general, a hulking figure clad in dark armor, towering above the rest, fury radiating from him like heat from a forge. The sight of him sent a chill down her spine. Fury meeting fury. "Focus on him," she commanded, pointing her sword toward the giant. The soldiers around her rallied, gaining strength as they homed in on their target. As they surged forward, Rahab's breath quickened. In an instant, she was swept into the frenzy, blades clashing, echoing like thunder. Each swing of her sword pulsed with the adrenaline of her people's hope and her own deep fears. With a fierce jab, she pierced the abdomen of an oncoming foe. His horrified cry snapped at her senses, but her resolve did not waver. She was no longer just a fighter. She was a shield, a spear, the embodiment of a people desperate for survival. She could feel their pain, their lingering hope manifesting through her fury. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the corner of her eye. The blood-stained figure had joined the fray, fighting with prowess that seemed almost unnatural. Every swing of their weapon was precise, each movement deliberate, a deadly dance. Tension wrapped Rahab's heart tight as confusion flooded back. Who was this ally really? But then it came, a scream, piercing the tense air. It echoed above the battle, drawing her attention away. One of her soldiers, heaving on the ground, was surrounded by the enemy's brute force. Panic erupted within her chest. "Protect him," Rahab yelled, urging her people forward. But there was chaos everywhere. The tides of battle shifted like a tumultuous sea, and behind her, shadows swirled, and whispers echoed in the cacophony, truth and lies, past and present. In a desperate move, she rushed toward her wounded ally, only to feel an icy hand clutch her shoulder. The blood-stained figure stood at her side. "You can't save them all," they shouted, urgency filling their voice. But their words fell on deaf ears. Rahab felt a rush of stubborn determination. "But I have to try." With a fierce battle cry, she plunged back into the fray, determined to defy what fate dictated. She felt the weight of her lineage on her shoulders, a legacy richer and darker than she could comprehend, powerful, dangerous, intertwined in the very fabric of the fight. Still, An unsettling question knotted in her mind. In defying fate, was she challenging the darkness, or simply succumbing to its grasp? As the battle raged on, the line between friend and foe, truth and deceit, began to blur, leaving Rahab more anxious with every swing of her sword. And even as she fought with every ounce of strength, one truth loomed ever larger in her mind. The real battle was not just with the enemy charging at them, but with the shadows lurking in the corners of her legacy, those dark truths waiting to be unveiled. What awaited her beyond this chaos? In the secrets of her bloodline. Would she find salvation in discovery or her undoing? Blood flew in all directions, catching the light in a grotesque dance. Rahab pushed through the fray, heart pounding in her ears, her sword biting deeply into flesh and sinew. Each foe fell beneath her hammering resolve, yet uncertainty gnawed at her core. Who was she really fighting for? Was she merely a puppet in someone else's game? Push forward, she howled, shoving the thought aside. For each other. But even as she yelled, doubt spiraled inside her like a vicious snake. She saw the blood-stained figure darting through bodies. They moved like they were part of the shadows, wielding their weapon with a grace that seemed otherworldly. Fear flickered through her, the dread that this entity was not simply an ally. Was it a harbinger of the truths yet to be uncovered? When another cry pierced the air, Rahab turned to find another soldier crumpling under the weight of the enemy. Her heart sank like a stone. For every life lost, her duty loomed heavier. Desperation clawed at her throat, and she shouted, "Reinforcements! We need to push back." Yet allies were few. They were connected by fear, adrenaline, and pain. But the tide of battle felt relentless and ferocious. She thrust forward again, eyes locked on the massive figure of the enemy general. The way he commanded respect, his presence a black storm cloud that loomed over them all. Thrust, drive him back. The anger in her voice was unyielding. Closer, like a moth to a flame, she bore down on him, every ounce of her being focused on bringing him down. As swords clashed, she felt her resolve reignite. But then, out of nowhere, the blood-stained figure was beside her again, eyes flashing. "You are losing control," they hissed, the fury barely contained in a whisper. "No," she snapped back, the desperation fueling her. "I am not giving in." Suddenly, a clash erupted near her left. A soldier, barely a kid, stood against a giant, his eyes wide with fear. Rahab shouted, "No, get out of there." But the child's footing slipped, and a massive sword swung down. He screamed, a sound of pure agony that ripped through the battlefield. Rahab froze. She failed to protect someone she vowed to stand for. Rage boiled within her. She screamed, visceral and raw, and charged toward the chaos, her body moving almost instinctively. She felt the shadows closing in, a sudden weight that dragged down each of her limbs. Her blood roared as she ran. It was her fear that fueled her, fear that if she didn't act, more would die, more would be lost to the darkness sweeping the land as blades punctured air around her. She launched herself into the fray, casting aside her worries about the figure beside her. "We're winning. We can drive them off," she urged herself, gripping her sword tightly. But a sudden rumble shifted the ground beneath them, and the enemy general let loose a monstrous roar, a challenge echoing over the screams, drawing every eye to him. Rahab stumbled. The battle was devolving, chaos closing in like a vice. "Join me," he bellowed, eyes dark and intense. "Together we could forge a new destiny, one where the shadows protect you." Rahab's breath hitched. Did he know? Did he understand the darkness that trailed behind her? The shadows began swirling even tighter, whispering secrets she dared not hear. For a moment, she didn't feel like the brave leader. The whispers crawled back into her mind, "You're part of their plan." A decision loomed like a knife's edge before her. Could she truly wield that kind of power without succumbing to its effects? The battle raged, engulfing her in uncertainty. Each moment heated her blood. Her truth flickered, pulling at her heart like a rope tugged in two. "Rahab," the blood-stained figure shouted, urgency dripping from their voice. "The choice is yours. Now." And with a shattering scream, Another life was lost a casualty amidst the war. What would she choose? Push forward into the abyss or try to salvage what was left of herself and her soldiers? As the ground shook beneath her feet, Rahab faced the looming shadows of her past with searing intensity, determined to carve out her own destiny, but at what cost? She hesitated, just a moment, but it felt like an eternity. The ground felt like it was swallowing her, the noise of battle decreasing to a deafening whisper. All eyes were on her, silent in their anticipation. Inside her, a storm brewed, fear, rage, and a flicker of hope mingling in a tumultuous chaos. Rahab, the figure shouted again, urgency spilling over their voice. Decide before it's too late. The enemy general stood before her, a dark smile creeping across his face. What will it be, serpent? Embrace the shadows, or allow yourself to be crushed beneath them? His challenge resonated, each word piercing deeper than any blade. Yet all around her, cries rang out, splintering the silence that threatened to engulf her. Each sound was a life lost, fading like ghosts drifting into the abyss. Rahab's resolve knew no bounds, her fury igniting as she gripped her sword tighter. You will not take them all, she roared defiantly. Her choice surged within her, powering through the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. She wasn't merely a puppet. No, she was the hand that wielded the blade. There was a fierceness in her heart, a truth waiting to be unleashed. She dashed forward, charging at the general with renewed vigor. As she engaged him, a burning light flared within her, igniting her surroundings. Her every strike was fueled by every life she was determined to protect. She could feel the shadows retreat, pushing back against her determination. But the blood-stained figure was suddenly next to her, their face taut with fear. You're fighting the wrong battle. Shut up, Rahab shouted, swinging her sword with such ferocity that it clanged against the general's own weapon, sparks flying between them. Listen to me. It's not about them. It's about you. They'll sacrifice you. They gestured wildly around. Don't you see? You're too important to this war. A stab of cold dread pierced through Rahab as she fainted and dodged another strike. A deep breath steadied her, forcing herself to comprehend the volatile truth swirling in her mind. Could it be? Was she destined for something greater? The general smirked, exploiting her momentary distraction. He swung again, and this time his blade grazed her arm. Pain shot through her, sharp as glass, and she gritted her teeth, but she refused to falter. You don't scare me, Rahab spat, blood seeping from her wound. Fight me then. Show me your true power and claim your throne. He roared, aggressiveness sparking the chaos around them. With renewed desperation, she sought the strength hidden within herself. Memories of lost lives surged, overwhelming yet generating clarity. A flicker of purpose illuminated in the depths of her fear. No, she screamed, sending a shockwave through the battlefield, forcing the enemy to hesitate. In a wild, desperate lunge, she turned to face the blood-stained figure, eyes fiery with conviction. If I'm not meant to follow shadows, then I will carve a new path for all of us. The figure nodded, as if Rahab had just uncovered a secret that had been buried deep within her. Then embrace the light within the darkness. Can be your greatest weapon. Rahab raised her sword high. In that moment, she felt the tides shift. The confidence burning in her surged forth, radiating across the battlefield. She took a step backward, leveraging her energy. No more, she yelled, the word echoing out like thunder. We fight for freedom. We fight for each other. The world seemed to pause, hearts beating in sync as soldiers looked to her, their leader unfurling the strength that had been hidden from her all along. The general's grin faded, replaced by uncertainty. But just as she prepared to rally her troops, the ground shook violently again, a tremor far stronger than before. The air crackled with energy, shadows coiling back like frightened snakes. What now? A soldier beside her whispered, drawing Rahab's attention. In that moment, a new figure emerged from the chaos, a cloaked silhouette, looming large, exuding an aura of authority and menace. Let the true battle begin. A voice boomed, deep and Resonant. Rahab's heart raced as she prepared herself for the storm about to descend upon them. Doubling down on her resolve, she wondered what this new foe meant for her fight. With a pulse of determination, she remembered her choice, the path forged in both fear and power, but was it enough to face this new threat that had risen from the shadows? For the first time in her life, the whispers faded, leaving only one question clouding her thoughts: was she ready for the darkness that awaited? The air was thick with tension as the cloaked figure stepped toward them, casting a long shadow over the battlefield. Rahab felt the surge of fear ripple through her ranks. Yet within her, a fire ignited. She gripped her blood-stained sword, the warmth of hope mingling with her resolve. This was no time to falter. "Stay focused," Rahab commanded, her voice slicing through the murmurs of doubt. "This darkness won't define us." She turned to her allies, their faces bright with trepidation but also with ignited passion. They were fighting not just for survival but for a future, a legacy they could carve with every swing of their blades. "Together," she shouted, and the crowd echoed the word, a chorus of defiance rising in the heavy air. The cloaked figure took another step forward, the shadows clinging to him like a shroud. Rahab could see flashes of uncertainty cast upon his features. The general beside her shifted uneasily, the manic bravado wavering. "What's going on?" one soldier whispered, glancing between Rahab and the emerging threat. "Fear him not," Rahab asserted, her pulse quickening as uncertainty clashed with her growing ambition. "We are more than just our scars. We're shaped by our choices. I refuse to bend beneath this weight." Suddenly, the figure unfurled his cloak, revealing intricate symbols that glimmered with an otherworldly light. An energy pulsed from him, as though he commanded the very fabric of fate. "What have we here?" he boomed, voice rough yet intoxicating, a mishmash of lost souls attempting to claw their way up from ruin. "How quaint!" Rahab inhaled sharply, his words igniting fury in her chest. "We are not lost," she fired back, stepping forward. "We're here, fighting for a future. You think your shadows will snuff our light? You think fear can reign over us? You're gravely mistaken." The figure's laughter echoed, reverberating like a thunderclap. "Do you not see, Rahab? Every choice you make will only lead you back to darkness." But in her heart, Rahab understood something profound. This fight was hers alone to mold, to define, and she would forge stories brighter than shame. The legacy she was a part of was far richer than any shadows lurking in the past. "No," she shouted, raising her sword high again. "We will not be shamed by history. We are the architects of our tales. Let us write something new today." With those words, the energy shifted, a collective realization cascading through her ranks. Each soldier around her began to glow, embers of awakening lighting their veins. "They need to fear us," another soldier echoed fiercely. "Now," Rahab roared, "let us show them who we truly are. Charge." As they surged forward, a powerful force echoed between them, a wall of unity rising against the chaotic darkness. Rahab led the charge, swinging her sword through the air as soldiers rallied behind her, strength pooling within every heart that beat in unison. The battle erupted anew, her allies like waves crashing against the tide of enemy soldiers, fear morphing into a fervor that radiated with every effort. The general fought alongside her, acknowledging her resilience, battling fiercely against the shadows that threatened to engulf everything. Amidst the clashing of swords and sounds of struggle, Rahab caught glimpses of her friends, the younger spy fighting valiantly, the blood-stained figure darting through the chaos, now displaying grace even in combat. For the first time, she saw unity in diversity, their strength sprawled out as a tapestry against the darkness. Together, they shouted, bolstered by determination, driving back the encroaching shadows. A glorious light flickered around them, forcing the cloaked figure to stagger, growing fainter before their collective brilliance. Yet, a moment distracted her, a brief thought crossed her mind, memories swirling as external distractions dimmed momentarily. "The legacy," she whispered, "the one they wished to snuff out, must live on." The shadows peeled back, revealing the cost of their fight. With each life reclaimed, An unveiling occurred, a promise that echoed within her heart. To fight for all that was lost. This deeper legacy was what would echo in eternity. Keep going, she urged her comrades, feeling their strength swell. Let us push through. The cloaked figure stumbled, darkness swirling around him like choking smoke. You truly think you can defy your nature? Not just defy it, Rahab replied, raising her blade against him, a final stand that demanded justice. We will overcome it. With a final roar, they charged through the remnants of their enemies, the light of hope shimmering brighter with every life they saved. And as the chaos began to settle, the dust of battle clearing to reveal a dawn emerging above, Rahab felt a weight lift from her shoulders like a heavy cloud slowly breaking apart. In the aftermath, as silence dripped over the battlefield, she stood taller than before, heart racing, knowing they would be told in tales for generations to come. But the struggle wasn't over. Those whispers of doubt would remain. Rahab turned to her fellow warriors, seeing their faces reflecting both battle-worn courage and a newfound hope. Together, we are unstoppable, she declared, breathing in the air suffused with promise and dread alike. This is just the beginning. What stories will we tell? And amid the gathering day's light, Rahab knew with fierce clarity that the tales they would weave from their scars could transform the weight of history itself. Now it was time to rebuild and write her legacy, bound not by shame but by the resilience of every warrior who had stood by her side. She invited their stories to intertwine with hers, forging a bond that would echo through the ages. Rahab smiled, embracing the dawn. They would face each new challenge together boldly, fiercely as a collective force of hope, determination, and belief in a brighter future. Don't just stand there in silence. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of my next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help me, and let us feed that algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, because I want to hear from you all. And for the love of stories, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.